What's up, guys? Welcome back to Road to the 2 Comic Club. Justin here, and two-day recap coming for you guys, 23rd and 24th of July. But again, even though it's old, it's I'm going to update you on the balances, how we did, and then I'm going to talk about there's a lot of articles I screen captured, and I'm kind of mad at myself for doing that because I have OCD. I looked through every single one. I'm not going through every single one, but I'm going to talk about a lot of stuff because there's a lot of news that I missed, and most likely you guys missed too, just because there's so much information. It's hard to keep track of everything. So if you hear something that you like, hopefully this video will provide value to you. But I'm going to try to go through it as fast as possible. So here we go. So first we'll just talk about the stocks, how they did on the Monday the 23rd. The Dow, I'll just kind of show you the animation like I usually do. Dow was kind of back and forth, did finish down about 13 points at the end. And then I'm just going to go ahead and show the next day while we're doing this. So the next day, stocks are doing much better. You can see the Dow was up triple digits, and then they ended up closing around 200 points up. So that was awesome. So let's go straight into the bounces and see how we did there. Again, if I'm going too fast, just pause the video and you can look at it. But we did lose money both of these days, and so there's not much in terms of winners. We had like our Google call did pretty well that day, but that was pretty much it. Only 3 calls win the triple digits. The rest were not great. And then our losers for Monday, we had a couple bad ones, Amazon and Tesla. Didn't do very well. And then let's go to the next day. So on Tuesday, our winners were Amazon was our best gainer. We had $1,300 gain. So even though they went down, I think they went down, I can't remember. Yeah, they went down the day before. They did go up the day after, so that was good. And then we had our Google call also did pretty well. This was because of their earnings. They had a good earnings report, so the stock did go up a little bit. I believe, let me double check just to make sure. Yeah, they did go up quite a bit. So yeah, and then here are our losers. Domino's Pizza was our biggest loser there at the bottom. So let's just get into the articles. Again, some of this is old news for you guys. Some of you guys already know this, but I promise you there's probably 1 or 2, 3 things even that you missed. And so let's just, I will talk about the trade I did on the 24th, but let me just go to these articles first. And I'll post some screenshots here too, but I'll post links in the description below. The first article is, this is the single most important factor to follow of the stock market. So basically this guy, Dan Lubb, founder of hedge fund, his opinion was the Fed is really more important than the trade tariffs in terms of looking at what the market might be doing next year. He says, that the disappointments around the GDP expansion around the globe and compared against the US and out of control inflation could deliver a shock to the financial system as well. But mostly the Fed is what you should be keeping an eye on. Now, the next article, S&P 500 NASDAQ close higher as banks and tech rally. Dow logs the lengthiest skid in July. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just going to link to it, but that was an interesting headline, how the Dow was the lengthiest skid in July. That was not good. The next article I'm going to skip over, but I'll read the headline. 10-year Treasury rate logs biggest daily rise in 7 weeks. That was kind of a pretty notable stat. Amid reports of the Bank of Japan policy shift. So again, that's kind of old news with bonds, but I'll still link to it just for historical purposes. And so the next one, and I did not know this because I was not paying attention to Snapchat, but Snap bails on the peer-to-peer mobile payments. You might remember that Snap was implementing a peer-to-peer, like being able to send cash through each other through chat, but they were kind of feeling like it was mostly being used for like exchanging sexual content. And so they kind of wanted, they don't want that on their brand image. And so, plus it's a famously unprofitable venture to do peer-to-peer sending, mostly because people don't really want to pay fees to like send a couple dollars to a friend. And so they did mention that, and they did mention how they should just be focusing on their ad, ad platform and stuff like that. But anyways, so that was an interesting read, and I'll link to that in the description. Now, I must have messed up the thing. I messed up the text on some of these. But anyways, this next article is 2 advantages Apple has over its competition. And of course, Apple has a lot of advantages over its competition, but this one talks about the valuable brand and how it's the world's most valuable brand in 2017 at $184 billion. And I'm not exactly sure how they come up with the value of the brand. I know how they can come up with the market cap of the company, but I think that's different than determining the value of the brand itself. So obviously that's not really any earth-shattering news, but they did mention that in the last quarter, this was back like in March of 2018, that quarter, the iPhone X was still their best-selling iPhone, even despite having cheaper models out. And so it's kind of good that the brand loyalty, people will spend more money for the products that they really want. The second thing was research and development. They have a lot of money to spend and they keep increasing their spending. So that's another advantage they have. They can spend more money than other companies, and so they can kind of, come out with better products and stuff like that. Now, that's kind of debatable for a lot of people. But anyways, that's just the general theme behind it. Now this one, Verizon is seeking Google or Apple as a 5G TV provider. So that I thought was interesting. However, negotiations were ongoing and it could still fall apart. So I don't really count this as an important article yet. It's just something to kind of keep in the back of your head. Anyways, YouTube offering big payouts to stars to keep them from Instagram TV. You guys might have heard of IGTV. Now they said that they are offering 5 to 6 figure payouts to its biggest creators to kind of keep them on YouTube and release their best content on YouTube. I personally don't know why YouTube is worried. I don't really personally use IGTV at all, and I don't think many other people do as well. And just because the vertical video thing is just so dumb, and let me rant for a little bit, but here's why. If you're watching this video right now, you're looking at most likely my face. I mean, unless you really like the shirt, but you're looking like right here, right? Why would I be showing the ceiling? Like, no one cares about the ceiling. No one cares about the pants I'm wearing. Like, the focus of a video is usually in the middle third of the frame. So why show the top third and the bottom third if no one cares about it? And especially if you're like, if I'm making a video and let's say I have a guest sitting next to me and I'm talking to them, I need to fit them in the frame. So why would I show vertical video? It just makes no sense. I think vertical video is stupid. There's very, very small use cases where that makes sense. Like at airports when you're looking at your boarding, like they show like the times of flights and stuff, departures. That's the word I was looking for. But other than that, I really don't see any use for it. And that's why YouTube videos are all landscape. That's why movies are filmed landscape. Movie theaters are filmed landscape. You wouldn't be going to see a movie if it wasn't in landscape. It just doesn't make any sense. So I think they kind of overreacted. I knew from day one, IGTV, I wasn't going to be using it much. And I still am not. But anyways, let's get back to the video. Google loses 2 more cloud AI execs. I'll just link to that. It is kind of important, but Google's a little struggling. They're losing some people. Like Facebook hired one, and then like Apple hired another one, and so they're losing some people there. But now about the earnings, they did report earnings. I think after the bell on Monday. And this article is called "Google's a Great Investor," and Alphabet earnings are showing the results. So it talks about how they made $4 billion, like the company did, not from selling Google products or anything, not from ad revenue, not from nothing. It was from investing in other equities. So that was about 1/3 of their net income, which is it just goes to show you that when a company's got a lot of money, they can make more money. And I think that's really good because, it can help the company be more profitable. However, you don't want to just rely on that, but still. And that'll help kind of offset that fine they had to pay for the EU and all that stuff. Now, anyways, more video game stuff that I thought was just crazy. Okay, we'll start with this one. Dungeons and Dragons, by the way. I never played that game, but I've seen it being played on TV. Like, I get the premise of it. It's having its best year ever, Hasbro CEO says, so I'm not sure if you caught that, but that's crazy. And he also said that that the immersive type games, which is what Dungeons and Dragons is, it could one day be ripe for global esports competition. So that is another opportunity for them. And Hasbro does own that game, and so that's pretty good. Another article, millennials are driving the board game revival. I thought that was interesting. I don't have the link to that one, but I just wanted to mention that. Comment below if you are a millennial and you're into board games. I personally like them, so, but, not a lot of people play them, but I guess it is growing. Anyways, here's even bigger news. Fortnite just hit its 1-year anniversary back. This is back, of course, back in July. But how the $1 billion game is celebrating, I did not know this, but they made $1 billion in revenue from that game. I did not know that. That's just a staggering number for a video game to make, considering most of it was kind of like in-game purchases. And this says they're on pace to generate more than $2 billion in 2018. $2 billion for a single game, which would value Epic Games between $5 billion and $8 billion, according to Bloomberg. That's just nuts. And honestly, how can you be bearish? There's so much good news, I feel like I've just been talking about already. I don't know, maybe not all good news, but there's just so much news. I don't know how anyone could be bearish on the market, at least with esports. I mean, come on, there's so much crazy stuff going on. Anyways, let's go to the next day. I guess we're more than halfway done now. So I did make a trade. So I want to talk about this. I did buy, this is going to sound stupid now hearing it in November, but I did buy 2 Weight Watchers calls because they did briefly dip below $100. So I was like, oh, maybe they'll bounce back up. Because I think they did do that once, but whatever. So I bought a $100 strike to expire January of 2019. Obviously, I sold that later you'll see that later in future videos, but I was expecting a rebound when I bought that call, so that didn't really play out very well. So the next, let's just keep going. The tech sector stock benchmark just logged its biggest reversal in 5 months. I'll link to that. I'm not going to talk about it, but just wanted to mention it. Okay, now this one I'm really excited about. The fate of the stock market for 2018 could rest in the next couple of days. Of course, kind of clickbaity title, but they do talk about it. So I want to put a snapshot here, a screenshot of this chart. Now what this chart shows is that since 1928, there have been 12 years in which the market has rose from April to the end of July. So, and then get this, 100% of the time it's done that, it's traded positive for the fourth quarter of that year. That is an amazing statistic. I love those odds, 100%. I do love those odds. I mean, I don't want to jinx it, knock on wood, but we did finish up from April to July. So according to these statistics and empirical data, we should have a good Q4 in 2018. And so I'm hoping that that's the case, because we got a lot of money still in call options and you know how risky those are. But anyways, crossing my fingers for those. Now, let's just keep going. Kramer says the FANG stocks could still have room to grow after Alphabet's really good quarter. I'll link to that in the description. But he kind of basically talks about how the FANG stocks, they solve a lot of problems that a lot of people have, even if they don't know they have it. Like, for example, Facebook solves the problem of like self-expression and trying to connect with your friends and stay in touch with people and up to date with things. So those stocks are still really important. So he still thinks they can grow. Anyways, Boeing shares plunged 50% 5 of the last 6 times it reached this level. So this is kind of an important statistics, but this guy was saying, Mark Newton was saying that when the stock had an RSI, which is a relative strength index number of 75 or higher, then their stock is usually overbought at that point and could trade sideways or go lower for the next 2 to 3 years. That has happened 5 out of the last 6 times that did happen. Now, if you're not familiar with the RSI, what basically it is compares stocks price movement compared to the other stocks in the S&P 500. So if a RSI gets too high, it's basically considered overbought and overvalued. If it's too low, like below 30, it's considered oversold, which can make it a good bargain. And so something that people look at when they're doing technical analysis on charts, they look at the RSI number, and if it's high, they kind of tread, cautiously. Do I do that personally? I don't pay attention to that, but I think I might in the future, maybe. Again, I don't want to have paralysis by analysis, but I do think I might keep that in mind when looking at stocks. Okay, so let's just finish up here with some Ferrari, AT&T, and Tesla news, and we're done. So, where did Ferrari's new CEO come from? Cigarettes and money. I thought this was an interesting video talking about Louis Camilleri. He's the new CEO of Ferrari. Sergio Marchionne did resign unexpectedly, but he did have some health issues, they were saying, and he was a really good CEO. He helped the stock do really well. If you watched my vlog last year, you'll know that I had my best trade ever with my Ferrari call. I made like 571% on that one. Sadly, I only had one call option, but it was my best return ever. And I still like Ferrari, even though I still think they got some good stuff coming up in the future. Now, AT&T had bad earnings, so their stock went down, but I still think their stock is pretty solid. They pay great dividends. I currently still have over 600 shares. 14 of those shares were from dividend reinvestment, so those were free basically. And okay, so with AT&T, they acquired Time Warner, as you guys probably know, but they did launch a streaming service, which I did not know this, called Watch TV at $15, I'm assuming per month is the price. But again, many people are still cutting the cord, so they're losing subscribers for their cable, but they're hoping to get more back through that. And they also did report a lot of more net wireless subscribers, I think, for like cell phones and stuff like that. So, I mean, I don't think they're down and out yet. I still am holding my shares, especially for those dividends, because they tend to kind of stay between $30 and $40 anyways. They're pretty resilient, and I still like AT&T stock for that reason. Now, last but not least, we have Tesla. A Wall Street article, actually no, I'll mention one more thing after that, but Tesla, Wall Street Journal reported that they were asking a lot of suppliers for rebate payments going back to 2016, but Tesla said they only asked fewer than 10 suppliers, and I believe Elon Musk himself said in interviews they have over 10,000 suppliers total for their cars, so fewer than 10, hardly anything. They asked them for reductions in total capital expenditures, spending on projects that began in 2016 but are not still complete. So they're hoping to kind of get their costs under control to kind of, increase their margins and be more profitable in the future. I think that's pretty reasonable considering how they're growing. They're going to be needing more from the suppliers. So their suppliers are going to get more money anyways. And so it's one of those things that's common if you have a business and you have a supplier and you're going to give them more business, it's common to negotiate lower prices, and I think that's not anything crazy. But I think Wall Street Journal probably blew it out of proportion like they always do, it seems. But anyways, this one video I was looking at, and I'm not going to link to it because I'm going to mention it right now, so you don't really need to see it. But Biogen, apparently, they beat earnings, okay, and they had a 9% sales jump in Q2. But get this, I didn't even hear about. This is going to blow your mind if you haven't heard about this. They had a 20% increase in users for this specific spinal atrophy treatment, Spinraza. Okay, so you guys remember EpiPen, how people were flipping out? It cost like $600 to buy an EpiPen. It was like 2 doses, basically. Get this. A dose of Spinraza can cost upward to $125,000 for a dose of this drug. That is just bonkers. I've never heard of anything like that before in my entire life. That's just nuts. I was just blown away by that, and I'm hoping that cost can come down soon, because if it's that expensive, it has to be life-saving. I haven't done any research. I just heard that, but I wanted to share with you guys because that's just crazy. So anyways, let's just leave it at that, and thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I want to give a special shout out to, I'll just give his initials, A.L., for being my first patron. I'm so excited. I did send you some messages on there, so please respond when you have time. But again, if you guys aren't familiar, I did start a Patreon to kind of post my trades in real time. Every time I make a trade, like within seconds, I post what I traded in the private Discord channel. And I also, post about news articles with little quick summaries, and it's just a place where we can go chat like daily in real time about what we're looking at in terms of investments. It's always good to bounce ideas off of people. So if you want access to that private Discord channel, the link is in the description for the Patreon page. I would really appreciate it. Check it out. But thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.